the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Joining me now is the founder of Patriot Academy, Rick Green. Rick, great to have you. I'm going to take a sedative.
David, that was beautiful. I mean, you were 100% right. I thank God for you, brother, because you've got a clear perception of what the real issue is here. They always want to blame the gun. Listen, all of their policies, the clips that you just showed, if they had their way, it cost lives. It doesn't save lives. Their policies cost lives because it disarms the law-abiding citizen. They can't defend themselves. It's open season on the sheep because the wolves now know it's a gun-free zone, or it's, that person only has 8 rounds in their magazine and I've got 30, so they invite more mass murder. We've had mass murder for centuries and centuries, usually by government on the citizens, but sometimes a crazed citizen. It's the nature of man. It's human nature. It's evil. It's wrong. The way you stop mass murder events is by more citizens being armed and trained and ready. David, just compare last Tuesday in my home state of Texas and Uvalde, an hour and 20 minutes for the bad guy to kill and go on a rampage. The next day in West Virginia, bad guy wants to do the same thing and kill 40 people in a public gathering. And there's a sheepdog with a ponytail. I don't know her name. I know it was a lady. She took out her handgun or concealed weapon and she ended that threat in seconds. When you need to stop the threat in seconds, police are minutes away. You cannot depend on the police to protect you. We, the people, the citizens, need to be prepared. She saved lives when she did that. And the only person that died in that potential mass murder incident was the dirtbag. And that ought to be the headline every time. Make sure the dirtbag dies by the citizens being armed, and that will protect our children. Biden and Beto and Harris and all of these political hacks, they are going to cause more people to die at the hands of the bad guys if they get their ways.
100%. It'll be a sinister version of the wild, wild west, as you said.
Yeah.
It's funny. They want gun control, but the gun control is going to end up making this like a wild west, but a bad version of it, if you will, where the bad guys have all the guns, and that's that. Hey, we are officially living in clown world, by the way, when the president of the United States can lie to us. He doesn't lie to us once. It's at least twice about our Constitution and the nation's history. What do you think about Biden, this canon stuff, and it's not absolute? I mean, why are we putting up with this crap?
I've been calling him out on that since he said it as vice president years ago.
That's true.
Here's the thing. The only ordinance we can find against a cannon is basically saying, if you have a cannon, please stop firing it in the middle of the night and waking people up. I mean, seriously, there was nothing that prevented people from owning their own artillery. It happened all over the place, and we can even show that up into well into the 20th century. So he's senile, first of all. But when he can lie about this stuff, like you said, and not be called on the carpet, and now to say that a 9mm is not, it blows a lung. Yes, a 9mm is meant to end a life, to stop a threat. Just like a .45 caliber, a .380, you pick your caliber. That's what the design of the gun is for. You want to stop the threat from raping your wife or child or murdering your children. It's designed to do that. And to say that you don't need a 9mm, that's not necessary for self-protection. It's the number one round of choice for Americans. This guy is a threat to people's constitutional rights, but also to their lives, to their ability to defend themselves. And you've seen it, David. You probably already talked about it, but Kevin Trudeau in Canada saying no more handguns.
Justin Trudeau, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry, not Kevin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau. Are you kidding me? Think, if the people of Canada stand for this and they let that happen, they deserve the radical tyranny that is coming their way. You cannot let this happen in the United States, and I hope that the people of Canada will not let it stand in their nation as well.
100%. And where is the left even conjuring up this argument, by the way, Rick, that there's any room whatsoever for gun control? I mean, I can't see how there's any wiggle room here that can be inferred from the Second Amendment constitutionally.
Let me give you a founding father not well known, St. George Tucker, a soldier in the Revolutionary War, known as the American Blackstone because he took Blackstone's commentaries on the law and applied them to Virginia and U.S. law. And he said, in the founding era, he said, if you in any way infringe on the right to keep and bear arms, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction. Absolutely, they believe that you should not be able to do that. Patrick Henry said every man ought to be armed. Over and over again, the founding fathers said, it's your duty. James Wilson, signer of the Deck and the Constitution and a Supreme Court justice, said if you get robbed in your house, it's your own fault and negligence. That it's the duty, not the right, the duty of each person to be prepared to defend themselves. And just as you've already pointed out, David, it's not just the right to keep, it's not just to have it in your home, it's the right to keep and bear arms. You should be able to have your firearm with you wherever you go, because here's the deal. Wolves prey on sheep. Therefore, there should be a sheepdog everywhere there's sheep. And if we want the children of America protected in those classrooms, there needs to be some wolves on that campus. I'm calling for an armed teacher or staff person in every hallway at a minimum. I'd love to have one in every classroom, but I understand some teachers don't want to do this. But at least someone on that hallway is armed, because it's all about shrinking the time the dirtbag has from when they start their criminal spree to when the threat is stopped. And when you give them 10 minutes, like in Parkland, they're going to take a lot of lives. 5 minutes in Buffalo, an hour and 20 minutes in Uvalde. How about seconds? In seconds, you stop the threat and you save lives.
You stopped me in my tracks. That sounds good to me. That's a lot of common sense to put a gun in the hands of someone there in the hallway that's trained in the whole thing. But I think the problem is, Rick, it's too much common sense for politicians.
Yeah. And it doesn't cost enough, right? See, if you're arming and training somebody that's already on salary, it doesn't cost anything, so the bureaucrats don't get more money to play with. What they're going to do, I'm telling you, even some of the people that are well-meaning, they're going to say they want an armed guard in every hallway, and now it's going to be this tremendous expense that everybody's going to pay for. We're going to probably overreact in some of the things that we do. Let the citizens get trained and armed. I'm okay with the school district paying for that teacher to go through a training. We'll train teachers for free at Patriot Academy through our constitutional defense course if the school will let them carry it. We've offered that for years and trained teachers to do that. But you know how it is. They're going to overreact and want to spend a bunch of money. It's not complicated. Get those teachers trained and armed. Get those staff people, the janitor, anybody on that campus that is willing to go through a good training and get qualified. They should be carrying a firearm at that school. You never know when the wolf's going to show up. And David, I wish it wasn't happening, in your community and my community. Everyone in America is susceptible to this. The dirtbags, the killers, if they're dedicated, they're going to find a way to get the weapon, and they're going to show up. Over 4 million violent crimes a year in America. About 500,000 to sometimes 2 or 3 million times a year, a firearm is used to stop a crime in America. So these people like Biden, when they take those firearms away from us, they're allowing all of those hundreds of thousands and millions of crimes to take place instead of being stopped. Their policies cost lives. Our policies save lives.
Yeah, and as we wrap up here, Rick, you mentioned Justin Trudeau earlier. Do they, being the left, the Democrats, call it whatever you want, the far left, do they want us to be like Canada? I mean, where exactly will they draw the line, if at all, here?
Well, and my apologies to Kevin Trudeau, the memory master guy, for insulting him by suggesting that he would take away everybody's guns. But I'm sorry, I missed your question. I started thinking about Kevin Trudeau instead of Justin Trudeau. I don't know, man. Do they want us to be like Canada? Do they want us to be Unfortunately, yes. Because why, David? Because they want only the government to have the ability. Bloomberg has said it. Biden has said it. They think that only the government should be armed and that somehow the government will protect you. And that's another fact of life people need to get through their skull. You can't have a police officer. They're not going to be able to protect everyone every minute of every day. We don't want a police officer on every street and in every home. That's a police state. So their trust is in government, which we know tends to mess things up. Right. Our trust is in the people.
Rick Green, love to have you on. I really mean this. And, we always joke about it, but I really could listen to you all day long. I really mean that. I really appreciate your time. Your time is valuable, and thank you for being here. You add so much value to our show. Thank you.
Well, and I apologize to your audience. I'm not actually getting a mugshot in prison. I know my backdrop's pretty ugly today. But the good news is, David, I'm in Colorado doing a Patriot Academy Leadership Congress, and we're training a bunch of young people. And guess what we talked about this morning? Well, we're training them in constitutional principles. We talked about the Second Amendment and the things that you just said in your monologue there at the opening. So good things are happening. We're raising that remnant.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. All right. And you
bet.
gave me a